Hello, gang. Hopefully you can hear me all right. Looks like Mike is picking up. Avid, welcome. Glad you could join today. How you doing? Cypher, hi. Welcome. All right. We're just going to keep painting our weird succubus chick and see where it takes us. Maybe we'll get it finished today. Seeing it again after a few days off, I like it, and I think I want to do more, so I don't know. If you're bored of it already, I apologize. Got my notes here from last time. Looks like I wanted to render up the wings maybe a little bit. I wanted to address the extreme redness of the cheeks and either bring them to the sideways parallel planes on the lower body, or bring the lower body's values and colors up to the face. I needed to render the piercing and the hands. And that's where we're left for now. Did I get to play any Cyberpunk? Yeah. I got it bad for that game. As buggy as it is, I'm so happy. That game pleases me to no end. It's a lot of fun. It's a great game. It's a masterpiece. Even with it broken, I have really strong feelings, really strong positive feelings about it, like I did with Skyrim and Fallout, both of which had issues in the beginning, especially. So I'm totally willing to give it time, and I know this is one of those games that I'll play. I'll play through it a few times, I'm sure. What do you think of it? You been having fun? What kind of loadout are you playing? You're excited to see how she ends? Awesome. I am too. I'm not entirely sure where this is going to go, but I feel like this is one of those ones that I can take to a full finish, and I will not be displeased. It will be a portfolio piece, I think, which is fun. So you guys get to see kind of how that works, and how it's not really all that different from anything else. It just tends to be something you're a little tiny bit more passionate about. Okay, so first things first, let's try to bring, I think it's going to be easier to bring these colors and values from down below up into the face than it would be to go the other way. But I'm going to do it on another layer just in case. Just in case I decide that maybe it's better to go the other route. So of course what this is doing is just kind of cooling out the skin a little bit and changing the value relationships just a touch. I know I wanted to kind of soften her up just a little bit. And I know that I was going for a pretty severe kind of almost undead vampirus type angle. I think I can keep that while also just softening it a touch. It's still screaming with style, so I think that's okay. So I can still hint at these colors, these intense saturated colors, and bring them down here. So I guess I'm kind of doing a little bit of both. bringing some of the cheeks down and some of the values from down below up. Just using a simple oblong round, flat round, or sorry, a hard round. We'll get back into the texture brushing in a little bit. Right now it's just trying to get the right colors and values in the right spots real quick. Rounding out forms. I'm gonna have to do something about those fingers because they're very like sausagey right now. They look like little hot dogs, which is weird. We don't want that. Buggy, but there's so much content. Pretty much only been going hacking, but it's not very good, to be honest. You got a sniper and love that. I actually really like the hacking. I think this is some of the best kind of hacking and so far. The Breach Protocol mini game is very confusing, and it is not clear at all how you're supposed to do it in the beginning. I don't know if I haven't hit a tutorial for it yet or something, but I ended up going online because it just made no sense to me. It just seemed to be random when I'd get it and when I wouldn't. And finally I went online to get that explained to me, and it made so much more sense. But there was no point that they actually explained that in my playthrough anyway so far. Okay, yeah, there's actually a system to the number hacking for the Breach Protocol, and it does make sense. It's just they never explain it, and it's really confusing. But if you go online and do a search for how to do the Breach Protocol, you'll find that it's not too bad. And I can win pretty regularly now with getting, you know, a decent sum of cash from it. Yeah, these fingers leave a lot to be desired. Yeah, with just about any game, when there's a core mechanic I don't understand, I generally will give myself a few hours or so to try and figure it out. And if it's really like stumping me and I can't find any, I'll even try and just read through all of the tutorials, which is what I did, and nothing really explained it. I finally just went online, and it was explained immediately. And it's not bad. What I like about it is even though it is a quick timey, very simplistic mechanic, it feels more hackery than any of the other sort of games that I've played. Like the hacking mechanic in BioShock, for instance, which was just redirecting a flow. It was a fun mini game, but at no time did it really feel like hacking. This time it kind of does. I don't know how they managed to pull it off, but it does to me anyway. Anatomy's looking good. Thanks, Armagerd. Welcome. Yeah, I'm talking about Cyberpunk. Yeah, I didn't understand it either, and finally I went online to try and find some information on how the mechanic works. And once I had it kind of explained to me through some forum, I think it was IGN or Kotaku or something like that, it actually makes sense, and it is possible to do it with intent. It's just there weirdly for such an important asset if you want to be playing a Netrunner. They never really get into the depths of it and explain how you're supposed to do it. And yeah, I was very frustrated with it too. But actually, there is logic, and it does make sense. Just get online, look for the directions. You gotta stop and ask for directions sometimes. You looked up how to get the fastest car. Nice. Learn by error. It's not one that you can learn by error. Honestly, I did not figure it out. And I also experienced another similar numbers one that kind of was confusing recently, and that was the deep code puzzle in which was it's like a secondary mission that you can run in Call of Duty Cold War. And a lot of the game, because it's Cold War set, is about Cold War spies stuff, and so they put you in this role of kind of having to be a cipherer. And yeah, some of the puzzles, some of them were pretty straightforward, like really simple ciphers, and then there was one where it was like twice, two or three times removed what it was you were supposed to do. And I recognized what they were doing, but I was like, I'm an adult. I don't have time. I just have no time to do this. So I went and looked up the mechanics of it. I didn't actually, and I was surprised to find out they can't give you the walkthrough answers because the answers for this specific code are different for every player, or at least there's a variety of different codes. And so you couldn't find the answers even if you tried, but they can tell you how you can go about figuring it out on your own, which I ended up using. That's my excuse anyway. And I went full communist on that game. Oh yeah. I torched the earth from Mother Russia. I'm a bad person. I know. Don't judge me. I judge myself. Yeah, I really like this brush for just kind of chonking out some decisive colors and values, because you just press hard and you can get nice sharp edges. It's good for fills. This is a great all-around brush. Definitely recommend getting familiar with the basics, For Cyberpunk, I've definitely been going. My build has definitely been more of a net runner. Like I think I mentioned this last time. I tend to avoid the magic systems in these kinds of games, but I'm really trying hard to do it, and I'm enjoying it because I think the mechanics are pretty solid for the net runner and the hacking. So I've been doing that and sort of a ninja stealth approach. Although the ninja stealth thing tends to be my normal go-to with RPGs. The next playthrough, I'm going to do no stealth, no hack, pure brawling. And I'm going to try real hard to get them mantis blades. It's going to be great. Can't wait for mantis blades. Wow. Thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that. So, well, friends here, I'm just going to tell you that the ending you got was still choking you up a couple hours after you closed the game. For Cyberpunk, That's good. That's good news. I got a little choked up in at the beginning, or rather, right at the beginning of the second act. That was I was surprised at kind of how convincing they made all of the characters and the interactions for some pretty tragic shit. It was great. I am so pleased with that game. You should all pick it up. Play the hell out of that. It's a good game. Oh, you went the Mantis Blades route? Nice. You can't wait for your next playthrough. Gonna go Gorilla Arms and only melee? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is go that route. Get a single tier for the funeral. Oh my god. The funeral totally got me, especially just coming from Mexico. Like, wow. It was really good. It was, the Ofrenda was great. And such a, I mean, the time that they took to develop the characters and really let you uh, experience grief and stuff like that was so good. I got choked up at the end of Bubble Bobble. Of course I did. Welcome, Tom. Glad you could join. The Hero's Quest. Yeah, that's the one. There are a number of occasions in the game you got emotional, but nothing that had you tearing up just thinking about it hours. Yeah. It's great. Like they did really great. The Ofrenda was so good. Stomp says, and welcome Stomp, glad you could join. Very disappointing they didn't include multiplayer in Cyberpunk. You used to play tabletop Cyberpunk in the 90s, and it was all about playing together. I agree that was the experience in terms of doing tabletop. That's why I still play tabletop, and in a lot of ways tend to prefer it. But if I really don't think, honestly, I don't think there would have been a way to role play in Cyberpunk as a multiplayer game, because people would just be running around being maniacs. And the way I like to role play when I'm playing a video game, it's so much more fun to do it just single player and just kind of get, completely immersed in the world. And I can't do it when, somebody's running around and they have a giant dildo head and, they're ramming their car into me for no reason. Although, to be fair, if we were playing Snow Crash, that would be happening, because that's just part of it. They talked about introducing it next year. That's fine. As long as I got some time to myself in the world, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine with it happening. I'm going to be interested to see how they manage to pull off multiplayer, ping, and the feedback from the different systems to servers with that level of detail. Like, I imagine it's only it won't be cross-platform to previous gen, because obviously they're having problems with it already. But I mean, the requirements, the visual requirements for your machine are insane for that game already. Third Eye, welcome. They're projected to add multiplayer in 2022. We'll see. I mean, especially if they're planning on, holding up content and regularly keeping content coming, I can see that game easily capturing new people, especially as they start to introduce new facets to it, like a multiplayer. You're thinking it may just be some kind of TDM multiplayer. Not sure if they'll be able to pull off something like GTA Online. Possibly. I don't know. I have a feeling that they're going to probably go for something like an in-and-out massive server system, at least 70 players kind of deal. I'm sure that they'll aim for something like that eventually, especially if, well, I mean, the other way to do it, honestly, if if I were on that team and I was part of the multiplayer design chunk of the team, I would push for a multiplayer that is very limited, but is all co-op. So you would co-op run missions together. And I know that that's been done before, and a lot of people didn't like it in other games. So I don't know. I mean, didn't they do that with GTA before GTA 5? I think it was 4 they did some multiplayer, but it was just like really limited co-op stuff. These got a little too dark for my liking. I'm sure I'll play it. I know I've got some friends, especially locally, that are tabletop homies that would be down for experimenting in Night City. I just started really kind of taking my time and exploring some of the other, I guess you'd call them, prefectures in Night City. And I found the red light district. So awesome. It's so awesome. I love this game so much. Oh, it's great. I did finally run in. I knew that I would, but I was really impressed with the game because it didn't happen for so long. But I finally did start running into buildings where I'd go in and there was just like one shop in there. And then it would just be like decor and nothing else, like literally not even lighting. I think in the downtown area, I found a couple of buildings like that already. So they managed to hold me for what, 16 hours without me encountering anything that really felt like it was completely dead. And that's so impressive. I think that's an incredible achievement to have a city feel so lived in. Yeah, I'll be talking about that game for a long time, I'm sure. You don't think it's going to be a persistent online world? Yeah, it's possible. Am I playing with RTX on? Yes. I think I am, but it's not. I don't have it maxed. I just took the recommended settings because I'm still sensitive about the machine. But yeah, I have it's a 2080 Ti, the black version. And I think I have everything set to ultra except for like 3 settings, which are set to high. And so far, it looks great and it runs really smooth. Most of the errors that I'm seeing tend to be physics-based errors, and then occasionally a T-pose swap and things like that. Like to me, these are not game breakers. They're annoying, but they're not really all that bad. Sounds like it'd be more co-op missions, yeah. You sure it's a great game, but you don't game to play solo? To each their own. I prefer solo games. Multiplayer tends to just annoy the shit out of me. They're just neighborhoods. There's a few screenshots you want to post to FB, but you know they'll get reported. The wall of dildos, nice. JMH, hey, welcome. Captain Picard. Your worst physics glitch so far was when you were trying to vault into a window. The game decided you needed to be 200 meters away. I did have a pretty bad error last night, and it wasn't a game breaker, but it was really annoying, and it was because it was gameplay specific. It was one of the taxi missions, and I was being attacked by a taxi, and I had to damage the taxi, and it didn't tell whether or not I needed to shoot that taxi or if I needed to have it follow me and ram into shit. So I chose to let it follow me and ram into shit because every time I shot it, I'd end up surrounded by cops. Like instantly. So in doing that, I would lead it on these merry chases and then it would just start to like getting a little bit smashed up. And then Suddenly it would teleport like 600 meters away. And it'd be like, what? And then I'd go back and I had to start the mission all over. And that was the only time I've been mad at the game. Gear Duran, thank you for the follow. Glad you could join. You had everything maxed and tweaked with it and turned a lot of settings down. It looks way better. It's possible. I definitely turned off the grain. I turned off the motion blur. I did leave on the chromatic aberration, but to me that's such a stylistic aspect to Cyberpunk. I felt like it just needed to stay. Nice, JMH. The same one. I refuse to do those out of spite because you're so sick of Delamain constantly badgering. Yeah, that's fair. Gear Duran, what would you like? What layer would you like to name, and what would you like to name it? And thank you for the rename a layer there. You left on lens flare. You turned off chromatic aberration, motion blur, and grain. Yeah, people who play with motion blur and film grain were insane. I actually liked the film grain for a while, and I ended up just turning it off because it didn't bother me so much, but it kind of, I noticed that it was changing the values of things just a little bit, and that was enough to kind of make me want to get rid of it. It didn't affect my gameplay. Like for a game like Modern Warfare, Warzone, turning that stuff off is a must, because if you have it on, you're actually it's a detriment to your survival in the game. And for me, these kinds of things are aesthetics. In a single player, it really doesn't matter so much, and it's just more of an aesthetic choice rather than, survival one. I'm tucking these fingers back because they were kind of pointing in the wrong direction, or they were twisting in the wrong direction. I didn't like it. No Reiki. Okay, that's a little bit better. I'll turn them off and on so you can see what I did there. See, there's a little bit, there's some thought happening. I got reasons for things. Don't judge me. What? With those off, you can set the graphics above the rec. Yeah. Yeah, if that's the case, you should definitely turn it off. Name it G Slayer, layer 52. Done and done. Nice. All right. Yeah, I still haven't actually unlocked any of the romantic partners yet. I guess I gotta try harder. I'm not giving enough gifts or something. I don't know. No sexy times for Uncle Izzy. It's just a harsh reality I live in, There are a ton of options. I'm trying to romance Pan Am. I don't even know who that is yet. I'm taking it so slow through the game, guys. I'm like really savoring my first playthrough. So it's just been, I've been role playing the shit out of it, like truly role playing it, and just going slow, like taking on side missions as they pop up, as I encounter things. I'm not trying to push it at all. Sorry, my adopted mom called. I gotta message her and let her know I'm broadcasting. 1 second, gang. You think as a man you only have two relationship options and one fling plus the joy toys? You're playing as a straight woman? Thanks, JMH. Appreciate that. Cheers, Gear. Glad you stumbled across my stuff today. That's great. She doesn't date women. That's too bad. There aren't many straight male or gay female options. I do think like some games they overdo it, but a few is fine. It doesn't need to be like a constant thing for me. It's a few decent options. There's not a lot of options, period, regardless of orientation. Oh, that's all right. There's only one for a straight woman? What? That's wrong. To figure out if someone is chronosafe. Yeah. Thanks for the follow, Gear Duran. Yeah, glad you like it. Yeah, I figured that they would probably go out of their way to to offer everybody, an equal number. One to two for both. Fair that. I didn't use the option, but yeah, at the beginning of the second act, post ofrenda, or actually no, it was just before the ofrenda. You kind of get this offer to hit on a bereaved friend, and like that just seems so wrong to me. I didn't even try it. It's like, oh no, you can't do that. I'm a bad guy, but I'm not a bad guy. I don't need all those little dimples I added. I don't think. Women have the most options. One if you're a straight, only one if you're a straight guy, one if you're a gay guy, two if you're a gay woman, one if you're straight. Wow. Thanks, Avid. Kiki Crush, thank you for the follow tonight. Appreciate that. Sorry, gang. The adoptee mom locked herself out of her car, so I'm trying to send her some options. If we can't suss it out, I may have to put us on hold just for 5 or 6 minutes while I run out and see if I can jimmy the lock. think they did a good job of making them all desirable in their own way. That's good. Quality over quantity. Can't complain. Can hold and entertain yourself like good kids. I can't trust you kids at all. What are you talking about? You found the unfolding of the relationship narrative to be very gratifying. That's good news. That really makes me happy. So it's not just rando porn fan service. It actually is character developing. Oh, I like that. I prefer it. Have I messed with Corel Painter at all? When I first started doing digital painting, I played almost entirely in Corel. I could paint in Photoshop, but I used Photoshop more for coloring in the comic book sense than I did for really painting. Corel was all right. It had some pretty good stuff. I always preferred Corel's mixing system. Their mixing engine for color was so much better than Photoshop's has traditionally been. Let's switch up the brush. I need a break. You get off your soapbox now and stick your head back in the brain dance. Nice. Are you going back to the game? Good quality and crusty quantity. That's good. Well, on the upside, they have the hookers, the Joy Toys, so you'll have that option, Cypher. Got to do all this side content you completely ignored because you were so hooked on the main story. From what I've heard, the side content can actually affect your main story experience. So yeah, definitely. And I just learned that today. I always play through it because I'm role playing it, so I make up the story I add to the story as I go. But apparently, they actually wrote in connections between the side stories and the main plot. I like it when it's worked in, so it's at least, relevant and doesn't just feel like kind of like go pick mushroom missions. You actually rolled back to an older save because you made some mistakes at the end. Ah. You find the best way to control tone in traditional work is to use a combination of mediums, graphite, pen, ink. They even make water-soluble graphite. Yeah, it's a not a bad way. I think probably there are many ways to do it, but probably the most educational way to do it is to actually learn to mix your colors so that you can mix the color and value you intend to. With purpose, and that skill set will translate to digital as well, because then you will save time instead of trying to hunt and play until you find the thing, or be overly dependent on specific colors or tones in order to glaze back. You can instead kind of jump to the finish line by choosing the right color and value, or you can play games with how our eyes perceive colors and color relationships because you understand the color theory behind it. There's different ways to do it all, but to me that's one of the most valid and undersold ways of managing that kind of control. It's just not as sexy. Just do more work. It's kind of boring sounding. Told yourself you're not allowed to reload any game choices. Yeah, that's how I tend to play. You wouldn't change the ending you got, but there was some collateral damage you were unhappy with. You've reloaded twice after being caught in stealth. You just started chopping off heads. Yeah, once I've been spotted, but I was only spotted in the very beginning when I didn't understand their specific stealth system, and I didn't understand how the hacking worked. Once I figured that out, I haven't been spotted since. Oh yeah, I wanted to do some of the sword play, but I've just been doing. I thought that I would be doing stealth and like a really amped up pistol for headshots, and I've actually not been killing most people. I only kill people that are killing other people. Don't know why. It's just how it ended up working out with this particular role. You're playing on very hard, and some missions you get one shot if you get caught. Oh shit! Yeah. You think playing on normal was a mistake because after the first few hours it's not that hard? Yeah. I think I played at the hard I played on the marked one, which is just below very hard, I think. Incredibad, welcome. Glad you could join. We are talking about Cyberpunk, of course. You try to be stealth, but a lot of people have lost their heads. I did notice, so I was very careful, like escaping the, what is it, the Arawasaka or Arakasawa, I can't remember the name of the tower. I went through that whole thing and stealthed it without killing any of the guards because I figured the guards were just doing their jobs, right? But I did have like 3 or 4 of the guards. I had this error where after I had choked them out and then I moved their bodies, when I set them down, their heads exploded. So I wonder if those will count as kills against me when I finish. I don't know. Stupid exploding heads. See if we can work in some of this red, just a little touch of it. instead of using the black, I'll use it as sort of reflective, creating a reflective color. Yeah, that's the way to do it, I think. Ah, yeah. Arasaka, okay, good. So far, I'm really digging Cyberpunk Incredibad. It's got loads of bugs and stuff like that. The problems that people have brought up are legitimate, especially people that are playing on previous gen. But I think it's a brilliant game. Like they get massive props from me just for trying to do this. I work for corpos. You think I'm a corpo head just because I spared some lives? Come on now. You got a city to burn. Am I playing on PC? Yeah. I actually built this PC for this game earlier this year because I am a turbo nerd, as we've established. Ooh. Let me check on the mom real quick. What set my bang? Intel or AMD? It's an AMD. It's a Ryzen 9. There are 390. I'm so bad at the names, guys. I don't remember the number stuff. I just ask my good friends who I trust, and they're like, go get this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get that. And then I try and build it, and then it doesn't work. And I have motherboard problems, and I cry a lot because I don't know what I'm doing, and I put together a very expensive machine. Some criticisms are legit, others are just nitpicking. I agree. There's definitely legit criticisms to it, but it is, in terms of role playing, it is an excellent game they've built, and I think that it will hold that stature for a long time. It will be, it's effectively, in my opinion, the new Skyrim, the new Fallout 4. It's of that tier where it will be played for decades to come. I'm sure of it. It's your first experience with Cyberpunk? Nice. Well, I mean, it's Cyberpunk 2077 was great because they basically took all of the original Cyberpunk stuff out there that had really put it on the market. Your Neil Stevenson and William Gibson, and all those guys. Like they took that and they took an RPG system and just put that on top of it. I loved Shadowrun 2, which is also a cyberpunk game, but they altered the feel of it significantly by basically making it a magical version of cyberpunk. So it's a good one. It's a good IP to step in on, I think, because it's the rawest form in RPG format. Have I dealt with any cops just spawning? Yeah, that's what was happening to me with the cabs. Anytime I was shooting the cab, I would have cops show up instantaneously and just myrtleize me. It was horrible. It is my least favorite thing too. I can't cry JMH. My tear ducts are dead. They've been burnt out. That's not true. I cry all the time. Good choice, man. Intel equals unfollow. I think my last one was an Intel, but I built that machine 7 or 8 years ago. Actually, even longer than that. It was a long time ago. Last time I built a machine. In the first few hours, you were like, "This is the Fallout game I always wanted but never got." What if the glitches and bugs are part of the appeal? Geared around, I've actually written that into my version of the game, where like that is the experience that my character is having, because he has effectively this virus, and so I'm just leaning into it and saying that world experience is, it's the whole simulation theory, and I'm just buying into that for my character. And it's been fun so far. I'm such a man. I totally cry. Physics Engine has given you so many laughs. Yeah, totally. You headcanoned it also? Great. That's awesome. Yeah, I think your character's definitely got brain damage by the second act of that game. Must have brain damage. If there are already so many reasons for potential brain damage. So I think it's pretty easy to retcon in the glitches as part of the game experience and do it in a satisfying way. I'm fine. I'm cool with that. Solid Santiago, welcome. Glad you could join. And thank you for that follow. Let's do this one now. You were talking to a friend about this earlier. I think people who complain about the writing not being as compelling or as cohesive as The Witcher 3 just don't have any imagination. I did the same thing with The Witcher 3 because, in my opinion, I don't think that the lore of Witcher is all that groundbreaking. It just feels like a kind of, Nordic or Slavic version of sort of standard mythologies. And so I'm fine with that. As far as writing goes, it feels pretty much on par to me. It's weird that people have had that reaction. Is Adopt-A-Mom okay? Did she sort it out? Adopt-A-Mom's all right. She's got AAA, and she's not far. She's at a mall nearby at a bookstore. She locked herself out of the car. I thought that she'd done it here, and I have other roommates in the pod that can help her out, but I was mistaken. It's actually out, so I'm letting her know that if she needs a ride, I can come get her. I'll just reconvene if I need to go and pick her up. But she's already called AAA. AAA will be there soon. So I think she's going to be all right. Still, I will be worrying. Damage, welcome. Thank you, Solid. Appreciate that. Art of Lore. Hey, is looking awesome. Personal piece. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this was just kind of a rando thing. It started out as just a lighting study, and then I just ended up kind of turning it into a personal piece, which is usually how that goes for me. Glad you like it. I like this one too. I think this is going to be a portfolio piece when I'm done. I don't know that it necessarily shows anything fresh or new from me in any respect, but, whatever. It's fun. I generally try to populate my portfolio with stuff that is like a proof, because that's kind of what a portfolio is proof that you can do certain things. But I guess this will just be kind of an update of figure stuff, since I haven't added to my portfolio, my public one anyway, with character stuff in a while, like fully finished character illustration. I need more ladies in my portfolio. Yeah, yeah. I need more ladies, like I need more monsters in my portfolio. I see what you did there. I see. All right. I'm going to use texture to kind of turn these fingernail things that I had originally into, a little bit more of a talon, which is also, I mean, seriously, there's really nothing I'm doing in this painting that I have not done many times, but it's fun, and it helps me because it's a thing that I know well, so I can do this without thinking about it too much and do a lot of talking and tell stories and things like that in the meantime. Izzy, do you ever do clean line work in your professional work, or is it usually just painting? I totally do line work. I've done just straight markers and pen for concept work and ideation, things like that. I would say it's not a huge focus of mine, because in the time that it takes me to do really tight line work, I could have done a painting usually. There are a few specific exceptions to that, like if I'm doing vehicles or props, I might go straight to line and just leave it at that. But if it's figurative stuff, I'll just end up painting it, because it's just as fast to do a finished painting for me. Baya, thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate that. I'm glad you could join this evening. So I kind of want to hint at another light source, even though I don't really have any other reference to cool light sources, just to kind of make these feel shinier, but it may be that I just am not going to be able to do it. I could argue, logicify that this reflected light that I'm picking up is is reflection from her own body. That is a fair lie to tell, but the problem with using that is that you'll find, as I'm showing you right now, that often those colors are so close to the color of the body itself that you're not actually getting any turned form benefit from it. Here we will, because this is an outlining. It's a rim light I'm adding in that reflection. So it gives it the feel of just being a little bit more shiny, maybe wet, or like a carapace material, which is really what I'm after this time around, not so much wet. And because this is a good focal point spot, we can totally get away with doing, slightly smaller brush strokes, kind of dig in there and imply some greater level of detail. There's still something unnatural about how I've done. I see it. I know that it's there. That the the arrangement of the knuckles that I have here and the arrangement of the knuckles I have here are unnatural. I know that they are, but there's also a part of me that feels like the unnaturalness kind of fits. So I haven't fully decided if I'm going to go really, really more, what's the word I'm looking for? More organic looking with those lines and shapes. Dunno yet. Like her pose, the collarbones and neck have great tension. Thanks. Yeah, I definitely want to feel this, capture this kind of the unnatural stiffness, like almost like a rigor mortis kind of feel. Will I do more visible tendons on the back of the hand? Yes, that is my plan, to dig the tendons out a little bit more. Am I going to work on her hair more too? I don't know. I kind of like the graphic brushes of the hair, the brush strokes. I might hint at it because that's certainly in my original reference. There was a little bit of lighting in the hair. But I might save that just for the bat wings and see how it looks. So that's to come. We'll figure that out as we go, I think. What if I join this dark here? Is that a feasible option? Let me see. I think I might. This is value pooling. Oops, lost my rim light a little bit with that brush stroke. Yeah, I definitely am going to have to pull those tendons out just to get them to be a different value in the rest of the hand. You're all invested. Be a shame if someone spun the wheel of art direction. Oh no! Gabe Lamas, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Avid, you're a monster and a horrible person. You should feel bad for everything you've done. We were almost done. I like that you're going to pour more grease on yourself, Avid. You already recognize that you've been bathing in Crisco for the majority of this stream. I see you. I see you. All right. Let me see. First of all, let's go to the chat. Here we go. You will see here, there it is. Whoop, or wheel of art direction. There it is. I'm going to do a little test roll just to make sure it's working. It is. So for those of you that are new and just joining us for the first time, the wheel of art direction is based on my experiences working with art directors that maybe don't have much experience with art directing. I've combined actual criticisms that I've gotten and notes that I've gotten with the notes, and it's all a joke. It's all meant to be a joke, but I've combined them with the notes that come from the Pocket Art Director dice set, which you can pick up on Amazon, I think. And between all of those, it's just meant to kind of throw a monkey wrench into the experience of doing an illustration or concept art or whatever, as sometimes happens with an art director. And so we will see what the Wheel of Art Direction has to say. What are you guys up to here? Just toss a match. Holy crap. Oh my God. human sacrifice is happening in here. This is great. All right, are you guys ready for this? Are we doing this thing? All right, let's get ready for the wheel of art direction. Let's see what the wheel has to say and how it will ruin my dreams. What do we got? Something easy. Bump it 5%. All right. Oh man, I have definitely gotten notes like this one, but I don't think this is one of my original ones. I think this is from the Pocket Art Director Dice. So bumping at 5% usually when you're dealing with an art director means that they like what you're doing, but they more often than not, when you get a note like that, it's because an art director doesn't know what they want to say, and they don't even really have notes, but they feel like they need to say something because it's their job to say something. This is for those of you that are looking to be art directors or are currently art directors, this is a common thing that happens. You feel like you're not doing your job if you're not giving criticism. It is not your job to criticize when you're an art director or if you're in management or leadership. Your job is just to help guide. So if they're already on the right track, fucking great. Congratulate them. Tell them they're doing a good job. They're already on the right track. If you feel like they aren't delivering their best, then you can approach it from that direction. You can ask them, do you feel this is your best in this specific thing? Give them specific examples of where they've been better, things like that. When it comes to getting this, almost always it's because they didn't really know what else to say, and they just feel like they got to get through that meeting. If you are receiving that as a note, obviously don't say anything I just said, because you want to keep your job. But one of the things that you can do, and that I have done when I've gotten notes like this, is I tend to exaggerate stuff just a little bit more. So I think we can actually do that with this without it ruining the piece because it's already exaggerated. So bumping it 5% won't really do too much. But I'll show you an example of that. You just had the weirdest audio glitch. All the sounds were coming through your headphones except the sound of doors opening. Oh, in the game. Okay, that's a bit weird. Cypher and Avid are burning each other alive. That's good. You don't know, Izzy, you can do better. Seems under-rendered. You think bump it up 5%? Oh, okay. So to you, it's the rendering. I think because the purpose of this one was meant to be a little bit rougher, I'm going to keep it rough. But what I am going to do is bump up the exaggeration 5%. So I'm going to, let's see. Let's grab the whole thing. I've basically done the majority of the painting, so I don't really need her to be on her own separate layer from the background anymore. So I'm just going to copy all, or copy merged, paste it. And what we're going to do, one of the easiest ways to mess with your exaggerations is to take this sucker into Liquify. And because I've done a copy merged, I'm getting the entirety of the image, which is great. So there's a lot of options we can choose from here. Maybe I can pop the head just a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Maybe I can, this can also be done with Warp. Warp and Liquify both do artifacting, but in different ways. So it's either way, you're gonna have to clean up blurs. Because it's a rough painting, it will not be so detrimental. If you want to minimize the damage that's done to the pixels in regard to the transformation of the mesh, what you can do is make big movements or make really slight movements with a really big brush. And by doing that, the stuff that's inside that big brush will tend to hold the pixel resolution a little bit better. It'll still soften a little bit, but it is what it is. Oh my goodness, I forgot the scene. Sorry guys, I keep doing that. I'm a bad person. There we go. So I will undo everything. Okay, so we're gonna go back to what it was. Sorry. What did I miss? It is a cool wheel. It's a nice wheel. I undid it. I undid it. Okay, so I'm going to show you again. So we can do things. Let me start from the beginning. I copied all and then merged onto a new, or copy merged and then pasted onto a new layer. Then I went to filter, liquify. All right, so now you're caught up. Oh my goodness, that's funny. I keep doing that with that stupid scene. See, that's what you get. That's my payback right there. So the 5% I did was kind of just pushing the head a little bit more. Just be a head pusher here. Expressions are a lot of fun to play with Liquify. The other thing that's really tough with the 5% note is that it's such a tiny change that sometimes you can get away with doing very, very little like I'm doing here and you can call it done. Maybe I can fix my hand problem here too. You got to be careful when you're doing these brush maneuvers though, because really quickly you can get into, Tinder territory where you've done warps and affected something in the background and not realized it. So now you got a big booty, but at the same time, the drapes don't make sense anymore. Oops. Because pressure sensitivity doesn't really seem to work that well in Liquify, you can get some really funky mistakes every now and then. All right, let's hit OK and see where we are with that. So the cool thing about doing another layer with copy merged on it is that you can fully look at what it looked like before. Sometimes you abandon it, sometimes you don't. I'm tempted to abandon it, but we got the notes we got, so I'm pushing it. We're doing the 5%. I'd like the more traditional, realistic face, but we're just going to stick with it and see what we can do. Okay. Yes to the hair, not the perfect mouth. She had a wanton mouth. She was too pretty for Izzy standards. Maybe keep all the other changes except the mouth. So you like the previous mouth. Sort of the more confused mouth. Okay. Something fishy about this booty. She was very pretty. She's not anymore. And what's what you'll find interesting is that the longer that I paint on it, once we've already made these changes, you'll notice how different it is less and less. Zoe, am I working on Affinity? No, I'm working on Photoshop. Yeah, there's some changes here that I don't like. I don't like the arm changes I made, so we're going to cut that. Boom. Easy, easy. Let's see. Let's go back to the previous mouth. We can probably jet them out just a touch. You didn't know about Liquify in Photoshop? Yeah. Liquify is pretty great. It has its downsides, but for doing some big, quick changes, particularly to faces and expressions, it's probably one of the better tools. Warp is too general comparatively. Makes it kind of tough to do that. So after you do something like a Liquify, you got to go in and true up your circles in particular. They tend to get the most abused in Warp and Liquify. Zoe, thank you for that follow. I appreciate that. Glad you could join us this evening. Get those eyes nice and milky. Just softening the edges of those. The reason I was doing that, if I turn this off, you'll notice I had these kind of the cookie cutter stamps into her flesh, and they were kind of feeling the same as her eyes, and I didn't want that. I want them to definitely feel like different kinds of objects. So I'm smoothing that transition even more in the eye. Because the eyes got their extra 5%, we need to go in and give them a little bit more, an extra 5% focal point detailing. And one of these things that I want to include is because the eyes are feeling swollen to the point where maybe she can't even close them, I want to give them kind of almost corneal scratches that make them feel more dry and less wet and soothed. When I was a little kid, I don't want to say kindergarten, but a little bit after kindergarten, I had a scratched cornea. I was playing in the sand, by all the cat poops by myself because I was a weird kid, and that's what you do. You play with cat poops by yourself when you're a weird kid. And some girl came up to me. I don't even remember what caused it, but she picked up a fistful of sand and just threw it in my face. And I screamed and rubbed my eyes. I remember doing this. And then I don't really remember what happened after that, but I do remember I had to go to the hospital. And they did that corneal, the glazing or whatever it is, where they put they put a phosphorescent dye in your eye, and then they use a blue light or a black light to see, because it'll puddle in the scratches, so they could see. And I guess one of my eyes was just covered with scratches from the sand. So I got to wear an eye patch for like 3 months, like a pirate. So that was fun. Your heart was palpitating. They look lovely. Good call. Holy shit, this looks absolutely nuts. Donkers, thank you and welcome. Glad you could join this evening. Yeah, what the fuck? What a bitch. Fucking kids. Yeah. You hope I cut her pigtails? No, I didn't even go near her. I didn't really talk. I was kind of selective mute when I was a kid. So I was just I was very weird. I did not get on well with other kids. So yeah, I could see why one would have thrown sand in my face. But that it did, something similar happened again much later in my high school years, and by that point I had managed to get past my severe social anxieties, and I think it was actually a girl this time that was flirting with me, and she threw a fistful of glitter in my face. She thought it was hilarious, but I remembered what had happened with the sand. So I felt glitter touch, I saw it, and it definitely got in my eyes. So I had actual plastic bits in my eyes. And I remember going, oh, fuck. And I went to go and cover my eyes. And I remembered, thankfully, that had happened to me as a kid. And I think at this point I was like 16 or 17. So I was like, shit. Take me to the bathroom. So she guided me to the bathroom. She felt super, super bad. And I went in there and I just basically filled the sink with water and just dunked my face in water and just kind of like using my hands underwater, just put pressure with water into my eyes to rinse it out. And I managed to get everything out, and I came out okay from that one. I didn't get any scratches, thankfully. I don't know what the hell it is with people, especially the young ladies, throwing some sands in your eyes. What's that all about? Oh man, I've got some crazy ass luck. I don't know if I'd call it bad. I just call it weird. I got the weird luck. Big time. I call it the weirdness magnet. That's what I have, is a weirdness magnet. Yeah, that's feeling a little bit better. There's kind of a squarishness. This is a result of the Liquify. There's a squarishness to this eyelid that I kind of need to round out a little bit. Especially with people throwing stuff at me. Yeah. Did I end up with that girl? No, I did not. Blinding me with glitter did not work. Sabin, welcome back. Thanks so much. Yeah, no, I think I did remain friends with her, but definitely I don't think that there was anything romantic after that. Just something about being nearly blinded that just kind of is a little bit of a turnoff, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so before I get too deep into rendering on the eyes again, because I do know now that I want to finish hard on those. Those need to be real, they need to be as saucy as possible for this painting to work out. But before I get in there, I'm going to go back. I'm going to back up just a touch and start rendering out everything else and bringing it all up. Because when you render, when you start going in really tight on a focal point, you need to bring the surrounding areas almost in like a detail-based gradation up to snuff with what you've created with the with your focal point details. We've definitely kind of changed the shape. Because I changed the shape of her cheeks, that inherently changes the shape of her mouth and how the mouth joins. Kova, no. Hey! Messed up. Briosk asks, how am I blending? I am using the smudge tool. It is a brush of my own concoction, which is basically a, I guess you'd call it kind of like a dappled, maybe even a leaf pattern type brush. I have an entire lesson devoted just to the smudge brush and how to build it so that it works like this in my Gumroad. But the gist of it basically is scattering. So you want to have the scatter on and limit the spacing. Those are the core elements to getting that brush to feel right. And then there is another, I think actually one of my cheapest lessons is the Pug Life painting video. And I go over how to use this brush in pretty in depth and how to use what I'm doing, which is opaque painting. So I'll get an opaque brush stroke down, and then I will use the smudge brush thoughtfully. What it generally comes down to, like the gist, would be making sure that you have, when you use the smudge brush to counter a brush stroke, is that you're using the smudge brush to soften one side so that the edge that you're after is totally controlled. So if I want a sharp edge on that bottom bit there, then I would soften the top, you see, to counter what I had just painted. That's the crux of it. Takishe, thank you so much for that follow. What do you get if you bump it 50%? 50% is not a bump. That is a major change. Bumps are, I don't think you could probably even do a bump of anything for more than maybe 15%. Anything more than that, and we're talking about major changes. When I'm calling them major changes, what I mean is, like, if it was a client specific piece, like let's say I had a personal commission, right, and the person was like, oh, you know, I need this change, and obviously if they're going to ask for a change that's more than 15%, then it's because they have something specific. Usually, when, like I said, when I was describing the bump experience, it's because they don't have actual notes. They just need to fill space. If it's that big, then it's going to be they have a specific change they want made. Bill Gabes, thank you so much for that follow. I'm glad you could join us today. Thank you. And if you are working on client work, you should definitely develop your own sort of understanding for how big notes and changes can be, because that's another way that you can unintentionally or maybe even intentionally get screwed by a client, is because they will drown you in changes. So that's something that you want to have, you always want to have in mind, is what is a reasonable percentage for change? What is a reasonable percentage for noting a note that they have for what they'd like to see happen with an illustration or painting or design or whatever, and stick by it. It's so easy to have feature creep. An easy way, this is another fun, quick technique thing. An easy way to get rid of brush strokes if you're finding that your painting is too brushy is to select a section that you're looking to edit, copy, merged, paste it, and then instead of actually painting, because you'll notice that when you paint, you get these little striations. I like those personally. I like chunky looking paintings, but it's a personal choice. Different people like different looks. And I remember I worked pretty closely for a while with a guy in LA, and his thing was totally like super smooth rendering and getting down to like pore rendering and stuff like that. And yeah, how he would do it is he would do a copy like this, and then he would go in and actually just straight up blend the painting. And this is a way you can get porcelain smooth transitions. And you know, it works. I don't like it as much, but it does work. It's just a personal thing. You were messing with me? Yeah, okay. No worries. Israel and Third Designs. Thank you so much for the follow, gang. Welcome, welcome. So it works very well in terms of creating something that's meant to feel super duper smooth. That guy, by the way, is Dan Luvisi. If you're familiar with his work, we used to share an office together in Santa Monica, and yeah, he was the one that kind of taught me. So there's this period, if you know my history at all, when I was at that studio where my work started to look really polished and super smooth. Like I would do, you know, film grain on top and all that stuff, and that was very much his influence and his notes. But I think over time I kind of just realized it's just not, I don't like it from my work as much. A little bit's okay, but too much. I really like to see brush strokes. I really like it. But this is the other thing that you'll note is once you smooth it out like that up there, look at the rest of this. The rest of this looks totally unfinished. You see, and it doesn't take much to do that. So we can go and do the whole thing. So we can do select all, copy, merge, paste, and then we just smooth out everything. This is how Dan would do it. And I think once you've gotten to a certain point, once you're at like, I'd say maybe 70, nah, not even that. It's got to be more. I'd say 85 to 90% done. You could probably come in and do this and take it into final just by smoothing like this. You just got to be careful where and how you do it and not overdo it too much. You don't want to break the textures that you've established. Time and place and all that sort of stuff. This is breast is definitely a place where you wouldn't want necessarily chunky brush strokes if they're not working. So it would be a good spot to do nice softening. Any good soft form, hand, shoulder's a great spot for it. But see, so like those little striations, those little tiny bits of the stroke, I like how that looks. It's just, it's always been cool looking to me. Like that Sargent style, just little chonky brush strokes. Just make me happy. I know I'm saying that I prefer it and I'm just painting it this way, but the face actually turned out pretty nice being porcelain. I think it fits the look of the creature that I'm doing. So just kind of committing to it overall. I have to do that in order to keep that on the face. And the cool thing, so this is where we go back to another teacher of mine that I mentioned last time. That was Mike Husser. Mike Husser would do this with his oils, and what he would do is he would blend real smooth, and then he would let it dry, and then he would, using a very, very fine grit sandpaper, sand down the panel with the oils on it, and then he would glaze on top of that, and glaze and glaze and glaze really, really thin, and it would create these luminous layers where light would penetrate the color and pigment, and bounce around, and the paintings in real life look so beautiful. And he would just do this again and again. He'd build up, and then sand down very slightly, build up, sand down slightly, so that by the end the surface was porcelain smooth. It was like so soft looking, and the transitions between colors and value were so subtle that you almost couldn't see it. And he's very well known for doing that kind of painting. But my favorite stuff that he would do was his chunky alla prima face paintings and head paintings, the portrait stuff, where you could see the thick brush strokes and the sword work of it, the fencing maneuvers. When I see that, that's the stuff I love. Makes me so happy. You're the same way. Dan Levisi is amazing though. Different strokes, totally. Yeah. Slightly off topic, but was there a time when I got starstruck meeting an artist? Starstruck meeting an artist. I was pretty impressed. I've met quite a few going to the school that I did. I remember I was super impressed when I got to shake Sid Mead's hand. That was cool. But I mean, at that point, I'd been living in LA for so long that you kind of get past that starstruck thing. It becomes, you understand that it's a social faux pas to flip out at anybody that's that's a star in any respect. You just kind of give them their distance and just admire them or appreciate them, and you say your words, you're friendly, but you don't wig out. So I've never wigged out, but I'd say the closest I ever got with the artists was Sid Mead. It was really cool to meet him. I didn't wig out, but I was like very nervous around Ian McKeag when I first met him. He actually worked on my team for a little while on a small project when I was at Sony. And I remember what happened with Ian was I took him my portfolio, and I just wanted, because I knew that he was just like this top-notch guy, I just really wanted to get his perspective on my work. And he was very artful about not giving me any critiques at all, because he was just like, you're so good, I don't want to mess with it at all, just keep going however you're doing what you're doing. So I was like frustrated and disappointed that he wouldn't just be brutal with me, but also it was like such a like crazy experience to have Ian McKay go, oh, you're good. Another one was Todd Lockwood. But to be fair, when I met Todd Lockwood, I was a little bit drunk. It was at a Comic-Con many, many, many years ago. And he was just kind of standing, talking with some other illustrators. And by this point, I had already been in the illustration game for a while. So I'm not a vet like Todd Lockwood or Ian McKay are, but I've been around for over a decade. So, I've met a lot of these folks. So I knew a lot of the people they were talking to. And somebody introduced him as Todd Lockwood. And I was like, oh my God, you're Todd Lockwood. You do some of my favorite covers. And so we got to talking, and he was a super nice guy. And we ended up being friends on Facebook, and we share similar politics. So we talk politics every now and then, which is cool. I'd say the biggest ones in general, though, I don't know if you'd call them full artists. To me, they're artists, but Stan Lee, when I met Stan Lee, was great. Stan Lee came into the office. It was a mixed bag, because at that point, it was several years before he died, but Stan was already kind of not quite there. He was total sweetheart. He came around, he looked at my work, he was like, this is awesome, I love this stuff, and started like coming up with stories right there on the spot. It was really cool to meet him. But it was like there was this real avuncular feeling about it, where it was like, oh, this guy is great. Like I just really like being around him. He's just a really cool, friendly guy, and he's so positive. And I think it's those kinds of people that tend to be just really positive, exciting people. The yes and type folks, sorry, I hit the mic, are the ones that I have always enjoyed the most when I met them, and they were, top notch, heroes of mine. And then what I would try to do is just talk to them. I would try to there's two ways that you can generally go. You can go the total fanboy route, or you can go the total like disinterested, like whatever, nothing phases me route. And I try to kind of like surf it a little bit in the middle, a little bit more towards the unfazed, but I never want to hide my joy of what I'm doing. And when the other person, when that really famous person is also like that, like they just like talking about what they love to do, it's so great and so much fun. And it's always worth it to talk to them at least for a little bit and get to know them. But the first couple of times that you meet somebody that you really look up to, it's going to be a sweat experience. You will be a sweat, and it happens. Don't feel bad. We all do it. That's the cool thing that I think I realized early on, is that these guys all did this too. Them are fruits. Thank you so much for that follow. Avid, subscription. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Miselanui News and Hani Sal. Wow, you guys got some cool ass names in here. Also, thank you, and thank you for the follow and welcome. You've hung out with him a few times at Nomon. Which one? Ian McKeag? I know that he's hung there a few times. He is great. Honestly, all of these guys have been so cool. Sid Mead, they were all really, really nice. I think that was the big surprise for me, is just how nice everybody turned out to be. They were so cool. So zoomed out, you can barely see how that softening really changed things, but I know, having softened and rendered in on the face so much, that I needed to back that up with the body. So now we can go back in. Now that we've kind of done our softening pass, I'd like to chunk it up again, and we're going to find some more places to put opaque, hard-edged things. Oh, Mike Husser, yeah. He's a great guy. He's totally the kind of artist you want to find outside having a smoke. Oops, I don't know what I did there. I think I lost my new layer. Yeah, there's different ways to meet the different kinds of personalities and to engage with them. So just learning kind of the different ways is a good approach. Like some artists would, and not just artists, but some people that are well known tend to react well to people coming up and going, "Oh my God, you're so and so! Ah, I just wanted to say you're the greatest." And for some artists, that freaks them the hell out, and you know, they respond much better to like a calm, "Hey, you did a great job on this, and I really enjoyed it." But like I said, you get trained in LA for the whole thing, where you're just kind of, just leave them be. You don't even talk to them. Mild disinterest. That's the key. And anybody that lives in LA will tell you that, just about. Denny DRM, thank you so much for that follow. Glad you could join us today. Yeah, sometimes it can be freaky. What I find for me, so it's happened to me a couple of times where I've been recognized, but it was really weird at the time because I hadn't really been on the exposing myself side so much. Like, I had my work and people could recognize my work if they saw it. So I would, when I did not panels, but when I did tables, when I tabled at con, the few times I've done it at Comic-Con in San Diego, people would come up and be like, "Oh, you're Izzy from this, you did my favorite Magic card," or whatever. And I was in a place where that was like kind of expected, so I was comfortable with it. But I had it happen a couple of times where just a rando would come at me out of the dark, just darting at me like, "Oh my God." I did not respond well to that. It did scare me. And now, I mean, now obviously, so this, I think Twitch and you know, the greater presences on YouTube and things like that I've been pushing for, obviously now you know what I look like compared to, and you have the work to compare it to. So now it's even easier to spot me because I got a weird look. I'm unique, as some would say. And yeah, I am expecting that at shows I will probably be it'll probably be easier to recognize me just waddling around, being the weird potato man. So yeah, come on by, say hi. Just come at me slowly. Slowly. Don't dart at me out of the dark with a clown mask on, carrying a butcher knife. I may not respond well. I know, obviously, I have now invited that exact thing to happen. I have created my own doom and somebody else's. Yeah, I think that's feeling a little bit better. It hurts you, Cypher. Don't let it hurt you. I'm sorry. One blue broccoli. Thank you so much for the follow. Glad you could join us tonight. Violence is your natural reaction to surprise. Yeah, it is mine too. That and laughing, like horrified laughter. Oh my god. Naruto runs are okay though. I suppose I would probably be laughing if you Naruto ran at me. Search Amazon for clown masks and fake butcher knives. Oh no. Oh no. Don't forget I'm an American. What are we famous for? I'm just really softening out that edge. So this is a mistake that I make a lot, actually, that I was just cleaning up there. Let me put it back in so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've told you guys many, many, many times, when you are painting and as you get better, learn your common mistakes, because then you can look out for them. And one of my common mistakes is I regularly misalign the anatomy of the shoulder. And it's not an uncommon mistake to make, but essentially you need to understand the underlying anatomy before you can really understand how it's mistaken. So first of all, these clavicles are fully off. They're totally wrong, but that's by design. I've kind of curved them down and made them stumpier when really they should actually kind of go up like this. That's a proper clavicle. But because I'm kind of totally dislocating and rearranging her anatomy to make something alien, I'm okay with that. But this is a mistake that I make right here a lot. So where the clavicle tends to insert is right underneath this little shelf of the scapula, which is your shoulder blade. The shoulder blade goes behind. So from top view, let's say this is the neck and this is the rib cage, your scapula will kind of do this little S curve like this, right? And then you have the scapula, which connects to it. The two are actually connected by a thick piece of cartilage. And then, you know, this kind of goes down. We can't see it because it's a more downward shape. This is a little bit more accurate here, okay? So like that. And then the ball of the humerus actually goes inside that little connection there. This is the, I think it's called the Acromion process, which is this little nub that comes out. So your humerus doesn't actually attach to the scapula. The scapula is the support, or I'm sorry, to your clavicle. It attaches to your scapula, which is the support. So you have this little nub that comes out. It's like a little cup that comes out of the back of the scapula like that. So if we were just drawing through, this would be our scapula on the back, okay? And this would be the other one over here. Actually, this would be pretty distended and a weird shape as well. But imagine this kind of as going around the mass of our rib cage, which is also deformed specifically for our critter here. And then this little cup right here, that Acromion process, I think that's what it's called. I can't quite remember. Underneath this shelf of the scapula is where the head of the humerus connects. So there's a bit of cartilage that holds this, and then the head of the humerus has kind of a little nub out like that. And then you go down into the elbow, all that good stuff. Okay, so really what this means is it changes how the muscles tend to connect, because a lot of people confuse. The deltoid is one of the most difficult muscle groups to paint or draw because it changes the most. If you think about what goes into brachiating, so brachiating is raising your arm above your head, which is something only a small chunk of species can do. Most animals, especially like your quadrupeds, things like that, they can't move their arms out like this, and they definitely can't move their arms up like that. They can't brachiate. So this is something like, I think it's just primates really that can do this, and it's very specific. But so you're able to, there's a lot of strength in there, and you're able to articulate huge amounts for a terrestrial creature. But what sucks is that now that's a very weak point. And because you have all of that articulation possible with that rotating ball, the only thing that holds that in place is a group of muscles they call the rotator cuff. And those muscles connect between your arm and the scapula and the clavicle. And I think one also goes to the rib cage. But I think it's 4 different muscles that one on each side that connect to that thing. And then there's the ball of the meaty ball or belly of the deltoid. So this is the mistake I always make, is I forget to include the shape of the humerus in that deltoid. And it is so hard to get right. So it's a mistake that I find myself cleaning up all the time. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So I have, in terms of painted surface, I have my, that little shelf right there and the connection of the clavicle right underneath it. Admittedly, my anatomy is wonky, but by design, that's my excuse anyway. But see how I made this right here the brightest spot? This doesn't quite work because the ball of the humerus needs to be underneath that. So that means that that little belly that I created there doesn't fit. So instead what I'm doing is I'm creating the deltoid's insertion here, or origin here, and then I'm choosing to make the belly a little bit lower. Now on very, very thin people, on muscular people, and people that have a lot of just meat, like I've got a lot of meat, you don't see that bump as much, especially when a person has, they're very muscular in the shoulders. You can't see it at all, but I can kind of show you. There's like a little tiny hump right there, and that is the shift in plane between the top of the shoulder blade right here and the beginning, that little gap in between right there is where there is no bone. That's just tendon and muscle. And then right underneath that is where the humerus begins. So you got to be mindful of that when you're doing the shoulder if the person doesn't have big, meaty deltoids. It's one of the most common mistakes I see with the shoulders. There are a lot of mistakes that happen with the shoulders. Don't even get me started on trying to like draw or paint them with your arm up like this, like how that changes everything. Because the anatomy makes no sense. It's a weird chunk of anatomy right there. And we're creatures covered with weird ass anatomy. So knowing that, then actually the belly, or not the belly, god damn, I keep saying that. The origin of my deltoids should probably be there. Which means that where it's bellying and we will see the light hitting it will be a bit lower. This is the thing I don't like about using that smudge brush, is it gets really cloudy. Very, very common mistakes. It's just so much easier to connect those things, but they don't look right when you do. On a person that's just where these transitions are smooth, so a person that has a lot of fat content between, you can't see these little changes in form as easily. It becomes a little bit more of a smooth thing, but they're still there, and you still need to obey these rules. Otherwise, it will look incorrect. Oops. I am going to simplify all of these shapes back here. Not because of anatomy now, but because of an illustration choice. I don't want this line back here meeting right at the fingertips. It feels to me like a tangency. So I'm going to try and find a way to hide that. And the way I'm going to do that, or the way I'm going to try first, is to unify my values on the far side a little bit more, which is effectively smoothing it. Hurts so good. Still convinced lower ponytail slightly longer would be chef's kiss. This one here? Yeah, we could probably add some more lengthy ponytail to it. The brachiation gives us the ability to throw things like spears. Yeah, it's true. Although the very first hunters didn't use spears at all. Yeah, you should look up endurance hunting. It's pretty crazy what humans used to do. Humans, I mean, if you just consider us as a species, are kind of terrifying monsters. Like, just terrifying. We shouldn't exist. Traditionally, I mean, the very first hunters, all they would do is they would just follow something. They would just follow a prey animal until it fell down and died of exhaustion. It was just our ability to stay upright, stay cool, like self-regulate our heat very easily, and carry water. That's what started it. Just outrun everything to the point of exhaustion. Usually you didn't even need to kill it. It would just fall down dead. Almost everything, as I understand it, so again, grain of salt, everything I ever tell you because I am a known liar. Basically every creature on Earth just will die at point of exhaustion, except for hominids, which is a terrifying thing about us. Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit better. Oops. Let's do this part on another layer so that I can erase out if I need to. See how I kept one part of that brush addition as hard and the rest got softened. That's the game there. That's what I'm doing with my smudge brush. And I think in general I need to smooth. I'm going to use a different brush for this, but I need to smooth the entirety of that the transition between deltoid and bicep, so that she doesn't feel quite so sharply muscular or thin, just kind of somewhere in the middle. See how it feels more natural almost right away, less like kind of a Bengus or Acromion. Doesn't take all that much. Outrunning as a superpower is kind of cool. Yeah, it is. Looks better. I'm a wizard. I am a wizard, Harry. Wait. That quote doesn't work that way. How are we on time? I have not been paying attention. Oh, that's why, because I can't see that feature. All right. I think just a little bit more time, maybe another 15-20 minutes of playing with this thing. I did not get close to finishing. I got too busy telling stories about how I almost got blinded. Sorry about that. I really did want to finish this one out today, but it's kind of tough talking and painting, getting stuff done. I know other artists do it. Shut up. I know how great Ross is. Leave me alone. Someday I will be in the major leagues. Maybe. Probably not. I hold no illusions. Actually, having my computer break down was kind of an interesting thing because then it made me think about like once you're actually successful on Twitch, you I mean you that's your life. You have to do that. And if you're gone, that's a major hit to what you've built. Like to have taken all that time. I mean even the little bit that I've built, I took a pretty big hit for taking a few weeks off of Twitch because my computer was toast. And it's brutal, but I mean that's just the way it is. It's interesting. This is another very interesting part of human anatomy. The all of the muscles that actually work your fingers. So very, very few of the muscles that make your fingers function and do all the cool, funny things that they do are actually in your hand. Almost none of them. The only ones that are really in your hand are here with your thumb, the things that let you do some of these rotations. But almost every other muscle that does it is actually way back here. And then it's these long tendons. So you can see you've got the actual belly of the muscle. It's very thin. It would be barely a forkful for you cannibals out there. Barely a forkful. Just a little thin strand of muscle, like a piece of tape or ribbon. And then that's attached to a long tendon that goes all the way up. And that's what does all of that movement in your hand. All of that delicate stuff is just all these cables that run down the length. Hands are crazy cakes. You want to talk about some kooky anatomy? Holy crap. That's the good stuff. And almost every finger will have at least two. It will have an extensor. There's an extensor and an adductor. The adductor is on the inside, on the belly of your forearm, and the extensor is on the back, this side. So if you know guitar players, people that use their fingers judiciously for their work, take that as you will. They're great people to study if you're wanting to study your forearm anatomy because they can make little muscles pop that you would not have imagined. Climbers. Oh yeah, climbers have crazy finger muscles. Very good point. Thank you. Yeah, climbers, arms and legs, bikers' legs, people that ride the bicycle, endurance style. Great people to study for anatomy. And then also, once you've learned it, dial it way the hell back because having the extremes, even here, I've got some muscular extremes that just do not match this figure. And these are constantly things that I struggle with to try and get under control with my painting. Because there's just anatomical stuff that we all individually like that's just cool looking to us. I really like the shoulders. I like necks, the jaw, parietal bone. There's just parts of the body to me that are really cool that I like to accentuate, but over accentuating them can kind of run detriment to whatever it is you're trying to say. Okay, not 10 minutes. Let me do some quick. Just checking my own hand. Anyone else moving their fingers and feeling the muscles? Yeah, you should do that. Your bones are always wet. Yeah. Actually, I was just thinking about that. Not the wetness, but about, I believe the part of the bone, it's not the bone, it's the cartilage. Kova, no! Is called the bursa. And the bursa sits between two bones. And the reason I was thinking about it is I've told you guys before about these injuries that I had from sailing when I got caught in big winds and big sea, and both of my arms got pulled out of socket multiple times. And so now I'm pretty much in constant, like, not pain but discomfort when I work my shoulders. And one of the things, I was on my phone the other night, and I had my arms kind of like this, and I was laying on my back and playing with my phone, and I noticed that when I was moving my arm, it kind of there was literally a creaking sound, like this, like if you were rubbing like a couple of pieces of metal together, or like running your spoon along a porcelain plate. That kind of sound, that was like how it felt inside, this little creaking squeak. And I moved it just a little bit, and I was just creaking it like that, and it came with like some discomfort. It's like, that's crazy. But what that really is that bursa, that little sac. What it does is it creates and acts as like a lubricant in between your bones. So yeah, your bones are wet, but also your bones are greased. So there's this little gland that basically creates a running grease that is between every joint. And if you damage that, it doesn't produce that lubricant properly anymore. And that's what can create really painful joint problems. And bursitis, Gearduron, is one of those. And I think that's one of the things that has happened, is that possibly the bursa sac has either been moved, like it's not in the right spot, or it's been torn altogether in my shoulders. And I will absolutely be paying for that in the coming decades. Yeah, it's going to be unpleasant. I may have to have surgery for my shoulders. But the cool thing is that like surgery and medicine is advancing. I mean, despite, so many people that are anti-science and medicine and future, advances are happening all the time. And the surgeries that they now do for shoulder stuff, I was just talking with a friend of mine. She's a medical engineer, and she was telling me about, because I do archery with her, and I was telling her about my injuries, and she said it's so cool. There's these new surgeries where they can go in and they can microplane the bones, and they can peel away little bits of tendon and things like that, so that you're not getting the friction anymore. It's like, and all of that's done as non-invasive. They just go in through, like, with one hole is for the scope, and one hole is for this little tiny spider arm that has little clippies and little finger bits on it that can fuck you up. It's pretty cool. So it's a good time, if there ever is such a thing, to have the kind of injuries that I have right now. I will survive. Yeah, I think I always find anatomy really interesting and amazing. I don't think I'll ever get tired of it, and I never stop learning. And what's interesting is, as I get older, I have at least that extra appreciation for it, so that even though it hurts, I'm still like, oh, that's at least that's interesting. It sucks. Getting old sucks, but it is interesting. I don't want to take the tendons all the way up because it'll look overly tense. I think just in a place where the skin will probably be stretched over it is good enough. So I want to keep that under control. But I do want to hint at the tops of the fingers, or the knuckles, kind of picking up light. This is important. Remember that the webbing is always longer than the knuckle. So we can hint at this, at the knuckle here, the actual ending of the bone and the exterior webbing. But the interior webbing is always deeper down the finger, always. Oops, wrong color. Come on now, let me pick. So see that? So there's the webbing of the hand. That's, considering how long her fingers are, that's actually still too short. We could probably go even longer, like this. But, I mean, we're not going for anatomical perfection here. What we're trying to do is actually the opposite. We're trying to be a little bit, make her a little bit creepy, a little off. I hope you guys find this stuff interesting. I don't know. It's I never know if I'm just going off on like some weird nerd shit that nobody gives a crap about. I don't know what people like. I'm awful at that shit. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. There's definitely kind of a little turn down there. You like it, Cypher? That's good. You got bursitis from working out? Ay, ay, ay. I've only gotten a couple of injuries from working out. I haven't done a whole lot of working out, but one of them was really bad. I was working out with a friend of mine who he's a big guy. He's Danish? No, Dutch dude, and he's just one of those guys that's built. And I'm a big guy too, but I mean, I'm just not naturally ultra muscular. I'm just kind of more like a old timey wrestler body type. And this guy is just one of those natural like V, huge shoulders, super thick neck type dudes. And we used to work out together. This was many, many, many years ago. But he was my heavy lifting coach because he was confident in what he could do. So he was just walking me through things. And I would not say that he was the kind of guy that would be like, just lift with your back. But there were a couple of things where I was like, anatomically, this doesn't make sense. And he'd be like, no, this is how it's done. Just do it. And one time he had me lifting really, really heavy. I was doing, what is that? The butterfly press, where you're on your back and you're doing this thing, right? And it builds up your chest. And he had me moving up weights because he was amazed at how much I was amazed. I didn't even realize I could lift as much as I was lifting. And he was just getting off on putting more and more weight in my hands and just seeing me do it. And so he had me doing I was doing presses like this with 60 pounds, 65, 70. And he was like, man, this is crazy. Let's go to 80. This is over a period of weeks. And I did an 85. I remember I was at 85, one in each hand. And I was doing press like this, just brah! And it was like at a slight angle. So it was a slight incline butterfly press and pulling up. And he was what do you call it? Where they're supporting you, checking. I can't remember the word for that. Damn it. Whatever. Anyway, he was there ostensibly to help hold them up should there be failure. And I was in the middle of a lift and I was going really, really slow. And then one arm just went block, like it just fell back. It wasn't that the muscles failed or anything. Like it didn't feel like that. It's just that for some reason, the structure that supported holding that weight just folded. And so I just dropped the one. And he was like, oh my God. And I remember I had this big, like dark bruise in the muscle right there for weeks and weeks. I was like, yeah, no, dude, I'm not doing your style of lifting anymore after that. Yeah, that was my short-lived bodybuilding career. It turns out just eating sub sandwiches is a much better exercise for me. You want to see some buff Izzy pics? I'll see if I can find some. It's not, like I said, whenever I worked out, whenever I spent time really trying to diet and things like that, I never got skinny and I never got cut. I just got bulkier. I just looked like there were more potatoes in the sack. I never looked like a good bodybuilder. So it was easy to let it go for me because I just was not getting the effect. But there are some from back when I was at Sony where I was a little bit more defined than I am now. But always, always soft. What an amazing choice to make the fingers black. Thanks. Welcome, Olabeiras. Olabeiras. That's a cool name. You miss being in a studio and doing art with your friends? Oh yeah, honestly, me too. I miss studio life as well sometimes. I especially did when I was on my boat. Holy crap. There were times where I was like, But I also feel like being on the boat really specially prepared me for what's going on now. This doesn't feel terribly different from living on a boat to me. You know, what I'm trying to do here is just soften everything so it doesn't feel quite so cut and defined. If anything, I want to lean more towards bony, which means I need to change where the forms kind of drop and shift. Yeah, I think that's a better shoulder situation than what I had before. Okay. Better. Let's do a quick double check on those hands. Let's actually get rid of some of this color and see if... What is happening here? Why is that not working? Oh, I see. Nope. Weird. My shortcuts for my Wacom tablet aren't working right now. Oh, it's all disabled. Oh, no, there it goes. Okay. What is... Proof setup. Oh, okay. I see. My setup was wrong. There we go. Now it's what I want. Okay. Just checking on my values to see how they're behaving. See, that red looks so much darker when it's saturated than it really is. It's amazing what color does to your rods in your eyes. Things just do not behave the same. Okay, so I see a couple of problems I can fix in the short time we still have left. Kisuke Kishi, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome. Did I save? Yes, I have been saving. No, what had happened, I think that was after the reinstall. I haven't done any proof setups checks. So I have a feeling that's what that was. Kova, relax. So just really soft value things that I need to fix. And I would not have even noticed them if I hadn't gone to the black and white version. Oh, knock it off. I want to let this hand kind of fall away. I don't need it to be as important, but I do need the structure, even though it's just roughly painted in with loose brush strokes. I need the structure to feel right, and if it doesn't feel right, it's going to stand out to me. And almost always that has to do with the primitive shapes, like how light is hitting it and how those shapes arrange. And that's the drawing side. Did I hide the pepperoni back? Oh, yes. Yes, the pepperoni had to go. We didn't want to piss off the Twitch mods. I'm barely affiliate as it is. Gotta get them followers. If you've been waffling, please do follow if you enjoy the content. And subscribe, should you feel the urge. And also for any of you, even like just if you enjoy lurking and want to talk art stuff offline, the Discord's a great place to hang. It's a really cool squad over there. Everybody's keen on self-improvement. So check out the link that's down below in the About section here on Twitch. Come on over and hang out with us. Lend us your voice. We want to learn about you. Yeah, it's a sad day. Totally still alive there. The imagination is where all pepperonis live. Okay. I think we can call it done for today, but we're definitely going to need another session, I think, to really do the final justice. I think it's the next session will just be really a rendering pass, a final rendering pass. No big decisions will be made. But let me real quick add some. I'm curious if these secondary shapes will help or hinder. That's the stuff. Nice touch with the X-ray. Okay, good. Yeah, we will be back on. So actually, I should mention this. I am still playing with the schedule, trying to find the right rhythm. So we now have a Saturday show that is floating. I think it will basically just depend on when I have time on Saturdays to get on, but it'll usually be in the morning for my time. so that European folks can come in. I don't know if that was a good addition, what I just did there. Let me transform it and see if that helps. No, it's creating a tangency with the arm itself, so I'm going to get rid of those things I just added. So yeah, sorry. Mondays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard will be the regular hours. Saturday will be before noon, usually starting, but up to as late as noon to start. And that will be the new regular. I've already adjusted the schedules in the menus below. And definitely hit follow if you want to get notifications for when I will be streaming. There will also be randos in there, I'm sure, where I just want to paint and hang out. Nope, I did it again. I made it too muscular. See? I gotta fight that impulse. It's bad. What else can I do real quick? Go back to that hair layer. Let me kind of add some little bit of more detail in this, because what I did when I did the Liquify for our extra 5% of pushing, I transformed the canvas texture there. So instead of, I don't want to mess with the canvas texture. I think it's fine being a little bit warped. It gives it kind of an interesting graphic quality, but I need to back it up and reintroduce detail. I think I'm going to have to look up, what's her name from The Shining? Shelley Duvall. I'm going to have to look up Shelley Duvall. I'm definitely getting some Duvall vibes off of this now, after I made the eyes all gigormous and kind of add to that creepy look a little bit. Kurono-kun, thank you so much for the follow. Okay, yeah, I think it's a good stopping point. I did get the hands. That was one of the big ones. Let's look back at our notes. I took care of all of the stuff except for the piercing and the hair and the wings. I will probably do a little bit more with these hands because they still feel off to me. They're still rubbery and a little bit strange. That could be color, that could be value, it could be anatomy itself. I think it's probably a mix of all. I don't know. But fresh eyes will help. They always do. All right, there's our anatomy lesson. That's good fun. All right. Well, thank you for hanging, gang. That was a really good session. We'll see you on Wednesday, same time. Hopefully all enjoyed yourselves, learned a little something, had a good time. Until then, paint smart, paint sexy.
I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, you want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication, and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever-dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children, we all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have to buckle in and maybe take some pain meds, because I'm going to rip out your normal person's eyes and replace them with a painter's eyes. I'm going to restructure how you see and how you understand what you're seeing. I'm going to turn you into a painting machine. Truly, anyone can learn to paint realistically if they can both determine what they're seeing or imagining with basic and straightforward rules. Once you understand the mechanics of light, color, and form in reality, you will have the capacity to paint anything you can see or imagine realistically. After that, the real fun begins. Here are some of the ways you can join me and master the logic of light and color. The very first lesson of my series is totally free on my YouTube channel. In that lesson, I give you the 3 primary rules of light that are the very foundation of painting and understanding light itself. If you do nothing else to make your painting mastery easier, at least watch this amazing little lesson. It will do more for your basic understanding of light than just about any tutorial you can find. When you're ready to get deeper and you feel like you have those first rules figured out, allow me to utterly blow your mind with the next episodes available on Gumroad and ArtStation. As we go deeper into the rules underlying the logic of light and color, I carefully and simply explain important and interesting elements. From beginner to pro, there is an amazing amount of information available. Each concept has been distilled into the clearest explanation you're likely to find anywhere. Like episode 2, where we cover the atmospheric effect and how that relates to light, scale, and distance of objects in reality, and how to render it. Or episode 3, where I hand over the ultimate key to controlling value in your paintings. Episodes 5 through 8 are all about rendering materials. Want to understand the logic behind rendering metal, leather, hair, transparency, damn near anything. I even cover the logic behind painting special effects like fire, neon, or lightsabers in later episodes. The lessons just get deeper and more detailed as I build on the foundations covered in preceding episodes. The 10th gives you the most important rule of composition you'll ever learn to keep your images interesting. The next few episodes cover important painting techniques like my edge control ninjutsu or simplification with the large to small system. We dip a toe in color theory, devote a few episodes to finishing full-blown illustrations utilizing the techniques we've learned so far. Some episodes, like the lighting game or Advanced Exercises 1, the shirt, present cheap, valuable, and practical exercises to give you explosive growth in your development. Episodes 22 through 25 cover painting and illustration, just like I do for Magic the Gathering, from assignment and inception to signing the painting at the end. Each one is full of tips, knowledge, everything to make working as an illustrator easier. Did you enjoy learning how to paint basic materials? Metal, wood, and such? I got 3 whole episodes devoted to the intricate logic behind painting different kinds of skin. After that, more lessons devoted to pumping life into your portraits and original methods for accurately drawing faces out of your head. From fundamentals to photo bashing, Gumroad and ArtStation have every lesson I create available for purchase a la carte. But here's an even better way to learn with me. Stay current with my latest lessons on Patreon for the lowest price available. Monthly support gets my student that month's lesson, a critique or paint over of their finished work, a discount code for 25% off the entire Gumroad archive, and access to the Logic of Light and Color Discord community, where we plan future lessons, share knowledge, and learn together as a team. The absolute best method is to join my Patreon classroom at the Student Plus tier, where you'll get everything I just mentioned and a free episode from the archive every month to accelerate your mastery at your own pace. You've decided to take control of your painting and master Izzy's logic of light and color. Now it's up to you to choose the path that's best for you. I'll see you on the flip side. Paint smart, paint sexy.